All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into the world of secure messaging.
Ooh, exciting.
I know, right? But we're going beyond the surface this time, past the apps and the notifications and all that. We're going to really try to understand how these systems actually work, like under the hood.
The nuts and bolts.
Exactly, the nuts and bolts. And guess what?
What?
It all starts with something I bet you use every single day.
Let me guess. Email.
You got it. Email. Who knew, right?
It's true, though, secure messaging. It's not some brand new invention. It's more like an evolution of ideas, and to really see that, our journey today takes us all the way from this pioneering project called Spot-On Encryption Suite,
Oh, I've heard of that.
all the way to a modern messenger called Delta Chat.
Okay, already hooked. Spot-On Encryption Suite. I mean, the name alone sounds ambitious.
It does.
What was the big idea behind it?
Well, Spot-On was way ahead of its time, like way back then.
Yeah.
Sending an email was basically like sending a postcard, you know?
Yeah.
Anyone could just peek at it along the way.
No privacy at all.
Nope. And Spot-On wanted to change that. They had this vision of a world where all digital communication was private, as private as a sealed envelope.
Like the good old days.
Exactly. And they actually set out to build the tools to make that happen.
So they were like the digital privacy pioneers. Love it. But how did they actually make email secure? I mean, it's not like they could just like slap a padlock on the internet.
Right. Exactly. They had to work with what they had, the existing infrastructure, which, let's be honest, wasn't really designed with security in mind at all.
Not at all.
But they found this really clever way to kind of layer security on top of it. And one of their key innovations was something called asymmetric encryption.
Okay, stop right there. Asymmetric encryption. I mean, it sounds complicated. Can you break it down for me?
Sure. Imagine you have this super secure online banking account. You use a password to log in, right? And that password's unique to you.
Decker?
That's kind of like your private key in asymmetric encryption. It's something that only you know.
Okay, so far so good.
But your bank also has a way to verify that it's really you logging in, right?
Yeah, they have all sorts of security questions and stuff.
Exactly. That's where the public key comes in. It's like a public identifier that the bank uses to confirm your identity.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Spot-On used the same principle to create these secure communication channels.
So it's like having two keys, one to lock the message and one to unlock it. And only the person with the right private key can read it. That's pretty brilliant.
It is. It's very clever. And they didn't stop there. Spot-On also used something called ECDSA signatures to guarantee the authenticity of messages.
Wait, hold on. ECDSA, I'm guessing that stands for something super technical.
It does. It stands for Elliptic Curve Digital Signature Algorithm. But don't worry, the concept is pretty simple. Think of it like a digital wax seal.
Okay, I like where this is going.
It's a unique mark that proves a message really came from the sender and that it hasn't been tampered with.
So no one's messing with my messages. Got it. Okay, I'm starting to see how Spot-On was building this whole system for secure communication. But didn't they also have some pretty unique features? Like, I read about this Impersonator thing. What was that all about?
Ah, yes, the Impersonator. That was genius. It was all about adding this layer of plausible deniability. Basically, it would create these fake chat conversations in the background. So even if someone managed to intercept your communications, they wouldn't know which conversations were real and which ones were decoys.
It's like creating a smokescreen to protect your privacy.
Exactly, like a digital disguise.
So they were really thinking outside the box. It sounds like Spot-On wanted to cover all the bases. When it came to security, I mean, really go above and beyond. But how did they actually apply all these ideas to email? That's where POPTASTIC comes in, right?
I've got it. POPTASTIC, or the POPTASTIC protocol, was designed to make secure emailing as easy as sending a regular email.
Okay, tell me more. How did this POPTASTIC thing actually work?
All right, so imagine you want to send a secure email to a friend using POPTASTIC. The first step is you exchange your POPTASTIC key with them.
Okay, like a secret handshake.
Exactly. And once you've done that, every single email you exchange after that is automatically encrypted. It just works.
So it's like setting up a secret code with your friend, and then every message you send is automatically scrambled so no one else can read it. That sounds incredibly user-friendly. But wait, didn't email usually wasn't encrypted? Didn't POPTASTIC use that same system?
That's what's so innovative about it. It worked on top of the existing email infrastructure. adding this layer of security on top of the standard SMTP protocol. It's like having a high security lock on a regular mailbox. You're still using the same postal system, but now the contents are protected.
So they found a way to make email secure without having to reinvent the wheel. I mean, that's brilliant. But didn't they also have ways to make it even more secure, like for super, super sensitive stuff?
Absolutely. Spot On offered something called multi-encryption for email. Imagine you're sending a really important message. You could add an extra layer of security by using a strong password, what they called a gold bug password, on top of the automatic POPTASTIC encryption. So you'd have two locks on that message.
Double the protection. It's like they were saying, hey, we've got you covered no matter what. I'm really impressed with how much thought they put into this. But let's shift gears a bit. You mentioned Delta Chat earlier, which takes this whole email-based secure messaging thing to a whole new level, right?
Yes. Delta Chat takes the foundation laid by Spot On and brings it into the modern age of messaging. It's streamlined, it's user-friendly, it leverages email for security. It's great.
Okay, before we get into all that, I have to know.
Okay.
How did Spot On handle group chats? Was that even a thing back then?
Oh, it was. And Spot On had a very unique way of approaching it. They created these things called echo accounts. Imagine this network where you could only connect with people you trust, like a private club.
With a secret handshake and everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's the idea behind echo accounts.
So it wasn't just about encrypting the messages. It was also about creating a secure network where only trusted members could join.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. How do they manage all the communication within that network?
Well, they had this system called cryptographic echo discovery.
Try saying that 3 times fast.
I know, right? It sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty elegant. Imagine you're whispering a secret to a group of friends. Each friend only hears the secret if it's meant for them, and they only pass it along to others who need to know.
Okay, I can picture that.
That's kind of how cryptographic echo discovery worked. Messages were only sent to those who had the right keys to decrypt them.
So it minimizes the risk of someone snooping around.
Exactly. And it kept things efficient, too.
That's a fantastic analogy. They were way ahead of their time with this whole idea of decentralized, secure communication.
Okay, but let's bring things back to Delta Chat. How does it build upon all these amazing concepts? Well, Delta Chat takes the best of Spot On's ideas and makes them accessible to everyone. With Delta Chat, you don't need to set up a separate account or learn complex encryption protocols. You just use your existing email.
Wait, so I can have these secure chats using my regular email address. That's wild.
It is. Delta Chat integrates with your email seamlessly, so it's super easy to use. And because it uses those same principles of end-to-end encryption that Spot On pioneered, you can be confident that your conversations are private and secure.
Okay, you officially blew my mind. I had no idea there was so much history and innovation behind secure messaging.
There's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
This is fascinating stuff. Welcome back. I'm still thinking about all that innovation we just talked about.
Yeah.
It's amazing how long these ideas about secure messaging have been around.
Yeah, it really shows you how powerful a good idea can be. And Spot On, they didn't just come up with cool concepts, they really cared about implementation too.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. They offered different encryption algorithms, right? Like, wasn't RSA one of the options?
Exactly. RSA was really popular back then, and it's actually still used today a lot. But Spot On, they were already thinking ahead, thinking about future threats to encryption. So they also offered this option called the Michaelis crypto system, which is, well, it's known for being really resistant to attacks from quantum computers.
Hold on. Quantum computers, weren't those like science fiction back then?
They were starting to emerge as a potential threat. To those more traditional encryption methods, Spot On recognized that the whole cryptographic landscape could change dramatically in the future, and they wanted to be ready.
That's some serious forward thinking.
Yeah.
What made Michaelis so special? Did it involve some kind of crazy, complex math?
It did. Michaelis is based on this fascinating area of math called algebraic coding theory. It's like creating this secret code that's incredibly difficult to crack, even for those super-powered quantum computers of the future.
It's like they had a crystal ball. They saw the future of cryptography.
Right. Pretty amazing.
Okay, so it sounds like Spot On was obsessed with security, covering all the angles.
Mm-hmm.
But all this technical stuff aside, they were also really committed to making their software user-friendly.
Oh, absolutely. They understood that security is only as good as its usability. People can't use it. It doesn't really matter how secure it is.
Got to be easy to use.
Exactly. They wanted to give everyday users control over their own digital privacy. And that meant making sure their tools were accessible and intuitive to use.
And that's something that Delta Chat has clearly embraced, too. It's all about making secure messaging as simple as possible, right?
Exactly. Delta Chat takes those core ideas of user-friendliness and security and brings them to the way we communicate today. It's secure messaging without the hassle.
Okay, I get that Delta Chat uses my existing email, which is super convenient. But are there any downsides to that? Any limitations to using email for messaging? Doesn't it kind of rely on those email providers to handle all the encryption?
That's a great question. While Delta Chat does use email as a transport mechanism, the encryption itself, that all happens on your device. Think of it like sending a sealed envelope through the mail. The Postal Service, they handle the delivery, but they can't open the envelope and read what's inside.
Ah, so the email provider is just the messenger, not the code breaker. I get it. But what about metadata? Doesn't email still leak information, like who you're talking to and when?
You're right, metadata is definitely a concern. Even with end-to-end encryption, some metadata might be visible to the email provider. But Delta Chat has ways to minimize that leakage.
Okay, I'm all ears. How do they do that?
They use a technique called opportunistic encryption. It basically means that if both you and the person you're messaging are using Delta Chat, the message bypasses the email server entirely. It goes directly between your devices.
So it's like a secret back channel. That's awesome. But what if the person I'm messaging isn't using Delta Chat? What happens then?
No problem. Delta Chat will just use regular email in that case. But the message is still encrypted on your device before sending it. The recipient can then decrypt it with their Delta Chat app, no problem.
So it's secure either way. That's great. It sounds like Delta Chat really is bridging the gap between email and secure messaging. That's pretty cool. Okay, but speaking of bridging gaps, how does Delta Chat compare to other secure messaging apps like Signal and WhatsApp? I'm not really sure how they all stack up.
That's a great question. One key difference is that a lot of popular messaging apps, they rely on centralized servers, which means your messages are all stored and managed by a single company.
Okay, so that's how they work.
With Delta Chat, there's no central authority.
Yeah.
It uses the decentralized nature of email, which means your data is spread out across these different servers.
This is like the difference between keeping all your valuables in one bank vault versus having multiple safe deposit boxes in different places. Sounds way more secure.
Exactly. And because Delta Chat is open source, anyone can look at the code to make sure there are no backdoors or vulnerabilities.
Open source is like a public audit, right?
Yeah.
Everyone can make sure it's all legit. That's really important. Speaking of looking under the hood, I'm curious about how Delta Chat handles group chats. Is it anything like Spot-on's Echo accounts?
It's similar, but Delta Chat has a more modern approach. Group chats are still end-to-end encrypted, but they don't require setting up a separate network like Echo accounts did.
So it's easier to use. That's great.
Yeah, much simpler.
Okay, I'm really starting to see why Delta Chat is becoming so popular. It seems like a great alternative.
Yeah.
But I'm also wondering, what are some of the challenges that Delta Chat faces? It can't all be easy, right?
Of course not. One of the biggest challenges is just getting people to switch over, from those familiar messaging apps that they're already using.
Right, people love their emojis and stickers and all that.
Exactly. People are creatures of habit. Even if Delta Chat offers better security and privacy, it can be tough to convince people to change.
Yeah, I totally get that. But is there anything else that makes it hard for Delta Chat to, really gain traction?
Another challenge is the email infrastructure itself. Email wasn't really designed for real-time messaging, so there can be limitations in terms of speed and efficiency.
Ah, I see. It's like building a high-performance race car, but you have to use parts from a vintage car. That sounds tricky.
It is. But the Delta Chat developers, they're really ingenious. They've managed to create such a robust system, even with those inherent challenges.
Well, they've certainly impressed me. I'm starting to see Delta Chat as more than just a messaging app. It's almost like a statement about digital privacy,
Right.
a way to reclaim your right to private conversations.
I think you're right.
This is really making me think. We'll be back soon to wrap up our deep dive into secure messaging and explore what the future might hold for this revolutionary technology. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from those early ideas behind Spot-on and POPTASTIC to, well, everything that Delta Chat is doing today. It's been quite a journey, the evolution of secure messaging.
Mm-hmm.
We see how these pioneers took a simple concept, this idea of using email for private communication, and turned it into something real.
And it's amazing how relevant all of this is today, With all the data breaches and, privacy violations happening all the time,
It's true.
it feels like we're at a crossroads. Like, we can either give up our privacy to these big tech companies, or we can take control and reclaim our right to communicate securely.
I think you're absolutely right. Secure messaging, it's not just about technology. It's about giving people the power to choose, the power to protect their privacy, their freedom of expression.
And what I really love about Delta Chat is that it doesn't force us to choose between security and convenience. We can have both. We can have the ease of use of those, popular messaging apps, but we also get the peace of mind that comes with knowing our conversations are private. Exactly. And because Delta Chat is open source, we have the transparency and accountability that's so important these days. We can see exactly how it works and be confident that our data is being treated responsibly.
It's like they've said, hey, come on in, see for yourself how we're protecting your privacy.
It's about building trust, and showing people that they can be a part of creating this more secure and private future.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, what's the one thing you really hope our listeners will take away from all of this?
That's a good question. I think it's this. Never underestimate the power of a good idea. Spot on. POPTASTIC, Delta Chat. They all started with this, simple vision, and they prove that innovation can come from the most unexpected places.
It's a great reminder that we don't have to settle for the way things are. We can demand better. We can demand privacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can support the projects and the technologies that, align with our values.
Well said. The future of secure messaging is in our hands. Let's make it a future where privacy is just the default.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into secure messaging. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep on diving deep.